ArtyZen journaling sessions include about 10 minutes of meditation, followed by 10 minutes of art time, 10 minutes of writing with a journal prompt, and conclude with 10 minutes of crafting. All you need for the meditation is yourself. For what follows, you'll want something to write in and with, at minimum. But if you have other art supplies, grab those too. I'll be collaging with some interesting looking papers, stickers, tapes, stuff like that. A quick note on set and setting. I like to add some curios or interesting looking things, maybe some plants and flowers, just to dress my set a little. I also like to have something to sip on, maybe snack on as well, just to round out the experience. Please join me for whatever feels comfortable for you today. The rest will always be here if you want to return to it. For the meditation today, we're going to do what I like to call my pre-10 meditation, because it involves a few prep steps, some resolves, some explorations, and then counting 10 breaths. So to start, we'll just review our posture. Make sure your seat is in a nice stable position underneath you, that your back is nice and straight, that your shoulders are relaxed, that your face is relaxed. And finally, soften your gaze and find a comfortable position for your hands. The next step will be to review our motivation. Just become aware of whatever that is today. Maybe you just want some time to yourself. Maybe you were just curious about this practice. Don't judge your reasons as good or bad. Just accept them as they are. If it is curiosity, that's a wonderful thing. And for our next step, we're going to set a goal for today's practice. I'd encourage you to think about the goal of letting your curiosity lead you through this practice. In any parts where you feel silly or uncomfortable, or if there's anything you want to sit out, maybe sit with a little curiosity as to why you don't want to participate, and explore that. Now, we're going to resolve to hold those goals very lightly, so that any expectations that arise can just slip through our fingers and fly away. We're also going to resolve to practice wholeheartedly, engaging with this practice with all of our hearts today. And finally, we're also going to resolve to set aside any distractions that come up. Just let them come, let them be, and let them go. Now we're going to explore the present moment. Right now, what do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? Do you taste anything? What do you feel? Now, as we go to the next stage, let those sounds and sights slip into the background of your peripheral awareness, and focus a little bit more narrowly on your bodily sensations, what you feel in your feet, your legs, the seat, your torso, your arms, and your head. Maybe release any tension you find along the way. Now again, we're going to let those body sensations slip into the background with sounds and sights. And we're going to shift our attention to the breath. Feel how the breath changes the sensations in your torso. Maybe you feel your stomach filling and emptying, or your rib cage expanding and contracting. chest rising and falling. Now shift your focus to the nose or the mouth, whatever gate your breath is passing through today. Notice the sensations of air moving over your nostrils or the upper lip. Try and find where those sensations are clearest for you. Maybe it's just under the nose, or maybe it's in the abdomen, in the chest somewhere. Wherever that is for you, bring your attention to that spot. Now we're going to count 10 breaths on the next out breath. Don't worry if you lose count or you have to start over. You can always pause the video at any point here. Now on the next breath, we'll begin counting. And when you finish your count, simply keep attending to those breath sensations until we move on to the next part. From here out, I'll be using my ArtyZen Spring Journal, but you can follow along with plain paper or a journal of your own. My journal is set up with some art and journal prompts outlined in light grays, so I'll start by outlining the drawing here so that you can follow along and create your own version if you like. The design is a broken light bulb with some flowers growing out of it, which makes me think of spring breaking through this time of year. Maybe even breaking my dependence on electric lights in the early evening. Or parts of my wardrobe breaking out as I don't have to dress as warmly, but maybe have to consider that the snows will be turning to rains, or could do so on any given day. I've pre-selected my color palette so that you don't have to sit through me agonizing over which hues to use. But you can pause the video here and select your own, or just pick them as you go. The reason I like to pick out a palette is to give myself a small restriction to work within that will allow me to focus on the lines themselves. I have a tendency to want to use all the colors, or get too caught up in which ones to go where. So selecting a few colors to work with limits me at choosing where they will go and then focusing on the lines I create with them. If you don't feel like doing the same design, I hope you're using this time to doodle whatever the heck you feel like today. I'm using erasable pens and markers, since I find the ink sits better on top of the page, and they don't bleed through to the other side like some markers. I'm also likely to mess up some parts, so I invite you to try and release any perfectionist expectations along with me now. This will be my main goal for this practice, being patient with myself whenever I make a mistake, and maybe exploring whether that is a mistake or not, with some curiosity. I have a quote written down for today's practice. It's from a movie by Ingmar Bergman called Fanny and Alexander. I haven't seen it, but I came across it in a book. The world is a den of thieves, and night is falling. Evil breaks its chains and runs through the world like a mad dog. The poison affects us all. No one escapes. Therefore, let us be happy while we are happy. Let us be kind, generous, affectionate, and good. It is necessary, and not at all shameful, to take pleasure in the little world. I picked this quote because it summed up something I want to do with my journal practice. Journaling is all about the little world, and it is necessary, and it is not at all shameful to take time and pleasure in your little world. So what happened in your little world today? What are you creating in the little world of your journal today? How does this journal practice reflect your little world? Your little world is composed of so many things: thoughts, feelings, Emotions, events, tasks, to-dos, goals, aspirations, dreams, fantasies, worries, regrets, doubts. And this journal is like a time capsule for them all. But a journal doesn't have to just be a time capsule for the past or plans for the future. By integrating other art forms, we can be more present with our journal, especially by starting with some meditation to bring us into that present moment. My hope is that by opening up your journal practice to some other forms of expression, you can become more mindful of and encapsulate more parts of your little world in new and joyful ways. Simple sketching and coloring can help bring us into the present during our journaling practice because we have to focus on the lines we make. But there are plenty of autopilot moments as well, so it's perfectly natural if we find our mind wanders during those times when we don't need a lot of focus. We can simply guide it back when we need it. If any thoughts arise that you made a mistake, I'd invite you to consider whether it's really a mistake. It could be a happy accident, or it could turn into one. If it is a mistake, is it really a huge catastrophe? Or does it just seem like it now, in this moment? If a potential mistake becomes too distracting, try to move to another area of the drawing until the feeling fades. By trying to stay present while we create, we can bring attention to thoughts like these, and we can choose not to get caught in them. That way, we can bring more mindfulness to our art. We're also bringing more art to our mindfulness, more color and form to use as meditation objects. The breath is a wonderful meditation object because it's always with us, but it doesn't have to be the only thing we focus our attention on. I'm going to start filling in color with the light bulb, just so I don't forget to vary my colors for the parts of the leaves and flowers that are behind the glass. Otherwise, I'm liable to forget, especially if my mind wanders. While we continue to fill in colors, I'd invite you to try and keep your breath and the sounds you hear in your peripheral awareness. If you find you're getting restless at any point, ground your awareness in the sensations in your body while you work. Feel the paper under your hand, the tool you're holding, the point of contact it makes with the paper. Feel the different sensations it produces as it moves over the page in different directions. These sensations can lead you back to focusing on the artwork itself, or you can sit with them for the rest of this part of the practice. I like doing the writing part before crafting because it prevents me from letting my collage get away from me and leave little space for actually answering my journal prompt questions. Our questions today are: what is your main goal this spring? How would achieving this goal nurture your values and personal identity? I tend to use the time that I'm tracing over the font to think about the questions. It's a great way to practice handwriting in a new font, but also once I settle into the style, I can let my mind wander back to the question it's actually posing. I'd like to start by jotting down some bullet form answers to this first question. Since I have many goals usually on my mind, I'll have to sketch them out before I can contemplate choosing which one is my main goal this season.
So I think I have a bit of a meta answer to this question today, because the work I'm doing on my ArtyZen publication and these journaling videos is the main goal that I think connects me the most with my values and identity right now. The reason I set up this journal was so that I could just come to it even on my bad days, where I have less time or less energy, and I could just write, draw, or craft without having to make any decisions first. I would have some prompts or themes to jump off from. On those days where I find I'm shorter on time or energy, I've tried doing just a very little bit instead of nothing at all. Jotting down some thoughts or feelings, or even drawing emojis or simple doodles, for example. Sometimes doing a little bit and then stopping can feel more like you're giving yourself a break than doing nothing, if that makes any sense. So I invite you to honor where you are each day, with a little practice, more work, or a lot if that's what you're up for. Your journal practice can be tailored to fit you each day or even each hour. So I'll let my mind wander over the question again as I outline it for the second part of this prompt. It's not exactly a small question to ask yourself, what are your values or personal identity? But I do think of myself as an artisan, someone who likes to use multiple art forms for creative expression. What are your main values? Making the most of our time is a big value for me. It took me a long time to learn that my time was far more valuable than what someone else was willing to pay for it. And that by paying attention to it myself, I was finding far more value in it. Combining different art forms with greater mindfulness furthered that even more, hence my punny name ArtyZen. So, completing more articles and videos like this will be nurturing that value, because I'll be practicing valuing my time through mindfulness and creative expression using multiple art forms. I'm inviting you to join me with this practice to create more value in your own time, but that's going to naturally be different for you. What do you enjoy spending your time on most? If you absolutely hate art and craft, why not spend the whole session writing? If you do, I'd invite you to try and fold in some of the elements of those practices. With art, I talked about not getting attached to so-called mistakes, as well as using the sensations of making marks on the paper to become present. Can you do that with your writing practice? If you'd rather spend all your time on art, and would rather color over this part, can you doodle out your main goal for this season? If you're more into collaging, are there any pieces of paper you could stick in to represent it visually? For the crafting part, I'll be talking about getting caught in hoarding art supplies, as well as how collaging is about choosing things that drew your attention and encapsulating that. So if you're continuing that part with art or writing, think about how you can do the same things in different mediums. When my pen is having trouble, I like to scribble little flowers to get it going again. This way I can use a sort of decorative element that can blend into a lot of these drawings and motifs rather than just making senseless scribbles. For this collage, I've already selected my papers and stickers, partly because I was inspired by the quote I wrote in here. I also didn't want you to have to sit through my selection process, which can trigger the part of my mind that wants to be very precious with my supplies. I can get caught in thinking that this paper or that sticker could be better used in the future, and if I use it now, I'm using it up. Thus, a hoard of art and craft supplies grows in the closet. The problem with this thinking is that the art I make in the future is always going to appear perfect, in my head at least, while the art I make here and now is actually limited by reality. This thinking that your art will be better later and not making any art now leads to that future art becoming nothing at all, a scary blank canvas forever. So you end up with a closet full of art and craft supplies, rather than a life full of art and craft. Or at least I did for a while. I have these Petit Prince stickers that I feel connect with my quote as well. It's a beautiful story where the little prince goes off his little world to explore a bigger one, but he ends up taking his little world with him, encapsulating it in stories that he tells the others that he meets along the way. I used to look down on collage as a less serious form of art. But then I realized that there's a very important process going on when you collage. You have to choose things you like, or things that simply drew your attention, and then arrange those things, encapsulate them, so that you can explore them with your attention later, or draw someone else's attention to them. It's a very mindful activity when you think about it. Connecting back to some of those thoughts from the art parts about releasing the inner perfectionist's expectations, I found that when collaging, I could get caught in trying to make everything very straight, instead of learning to appreciate where things ended up. But the effort it takes to make perfectly straight lines never quite seemed to pay off. It's not always easy to release those straight lines, but I found it so worthwhile to appreciate where things ended up falling instead. Lately, I've been enjoying making these little hinges on these doors that I picked up. It makes for an area of my collage that's interactive, but it also allows me to write something in behind there, which can be kind of fun. Sometimes I use stickier stickers to keep washi tape from peeling off the paper, since it can have a tendency to lift off. It also builds another layer into this collage, and I really like overlapping layers to add a bit of depth with this. I hope you try this practice with me again. I'd also invite you to try a practice with just yourself. Choose your own music, something to draw or color, something to write about, some things to arrange, and skip anything you didn't like or don't feel like doing. I also invite you to think of how you can take some of this practice into different parts of your life, into your little world. How can you accept mistakes when they happen, or remind yourself to question if it really was a mistake? How can you use sensation to become more grounded in the present? How can you make the most of your time and honor where you are today? How can you be less precious with things and instead enjoy them more? How can you arrange things so that you draw attention to them? Maybe come back to them later. Until next time.